Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the Lifeonaire Show. I'm your host, Jason Mojo. On the Lifeonaire Show, we help people make more, work less, and live better lives. I am joined by my co-host, Polish Peter. What's up, dude?
Not much, man. What's going on over there? Did you forget to do your hair today, or
I
what?
did, but I'm actually looking at yours too, and I'm seeing a little flop there where there should be a flip. So I think there might be.
Hold on. For those of you watching the video, hold on, watch.
Oh, Peter, I've never seen you in a hat before. This is interesting. We're both doing the backwards hat today. Okay, if you're watching on YouTube,
I'm gonna do like you do now.
All right, you got to make sure it's perfect.
Let's do it.
All right, yeah. All right, now we're ready.
I look weird.
I'm not gonna criticize, bro. I'm here to build you up. I'm here to build you up, not criticize or tear down. Dude, we have an awesome episode today. We got Cale on. He's an awesome dude. We got to meet him a couple of years ago at the Getaway in Wisconsin. And he's just a real active guy that I've stayed in touch with more than just a casual relationship. And I've gotten to know him really well. And he's going to share on this episode a lot of personal things that related, successful business guy, but more than that, we're getting the personal side of things. And in his case, where tragedy struck with his daughter.
Right. So if you have ever gotten anything tough in your life, you went to the really deep valley, I want you to listen to this particular episode because I think it's going to give you something. I asked him a couple of questions towards the end, and he shared one little important point that I think is going to benefit you, listener, when the times comes, maybe something tough in your life, or you went to experience something, or somebody who's experienced something tough. How do you talk to them? What do you say to them? And I think it's going to be really important for you to listen to this.
Yeah. You're going to love this episode. Cale's an awesome guy. Let's go right now to our interview. Cale, what's up, man? Welcome to the Lifeonaire Show, bro.
Welcome, man. How you doing?
Good, dude. I know this is a peak season for you. You're a rock star at this time of the year, but I really appreciate you peeling some time away for our listeners here, man. They're going to appreciate it. They're going to love your story, dude. You're an awesome guy. The first time we met was that 2020 in Milwaukee? Was that the year? What year was that?
It was 2020. It was just the last live Lifeonaire event before COVID.
Oh, that's right. It was like weeks before, right? Before the world shut down.
Literally, that was a couple of weeks, I think.
Dude, and so I remember you were sitting in the front row at the event. You had all kinds of questions. You were sharing. You're participating. You've joined the coaching program and stuff now. But tell me, first of all, I'm curious, what actually appealed to you about coming to the Lifeonaire event to begin with?
Well, I got to tell you, I really have to say thanks to Steve and Laura Halverson.
Okay. They've been on the show.
They have, and they did a fantastic job. So I guess to really bring it back to where it started, I was trying to bring my daughter out to Wisconsin and get her enrolled in school out here, but we needed to have an address in the school district. And I was struggling. My fiance's kids go to school in that district. We live just outside of the district. Her kids are open enrolled, but there was no open enrollment slots. And we had tried a couple years in a row to get her in. And it really just boiled down to, I needed to have an address in the area. So I was looking for an apartment just to literally hang a shingle on the door and say, this is my address, and never even live there. And it happened to be Laura's apartment. And she had called me up and said, hey, what's going on? What are you trying to accomplish here? And through that process of getting to know me and asking the typical landlord questions, she found out a little bit more about my crazy, hectic life and said, I just had this nudge. We just came back from this great event, must have been her retreat. And I said, I really want to invite you to this event. And I was like, yeah, okay, whatever. And when I gave Tanya the check to take over and give her the deposit on the apartment, what I didn't know at the time was that she handed the check back to Tanya along with the book, Lifeonaire. Tanya read the book. At that point, I hadn't. I'll be honest. I've only read part of it.
Oh, dude, I won't tell Steve. Don't worry. It's our secret. Right. It's our secret.
Cut. Do it all over again. I don't need to, man. I know the story, and I know, it's fantastic. So at that point, I was really just busy with life, and I had all the same excuses everybody. I don't have time. There's no way I can do this. It was going into my busy season. I'm like, this is just not going to happen. And Tanya and I had some conversation, and she's like, geez, this is really maybe a special opportunity for you that you might not have come up again in your life. And I was like, so I called Laura the night before and I'm like, hey, can I still get to this event? Because there's something calling me that says I need to go. And I was super on the fence, and I went, I got there like 15 minutes late because, I'm the typical guy who's checking my voicemail through the meeting and having to step out and take calls in the beginning. So I got there, and within probably, the first 15 minutes of you guys talking, I was on the phone with Tanya telling her, you need to do whatever you can to get out of school and get down here and be part of this. And if I have to come up and watch the kids tonight or whatever, we'll make it work, but you need to be part of this event. So I saw something special and unique right out of the box. And you guys are talking a language that nobody ever talked to me before and really never put me in focus like that before. That was really the start of it. I decided to join the coaching program, and a big part of it was just my life was out of control. I had no free time. I was doing the same thing that a lot of people do. They focus on their business, one, because they know how to control it. Two, they're for their family, right? We've all said that before. I bust my hump every day so I can put a roof over my family's head so we can go on vacations. And at the end of the day, that first 3 days of Get a Life really shine the light right in my face and said, hey, dude, you're doing this the wrong way, man. You're doing this the wrong way. Your family just wants you.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's give our audience some context. Like, what kind of business do you have? Were you working, or what kind of hours are we putting in? What was this looking like?
I was working ridiculous amounts of hours. I was getting maybe 4 hours of sleep a day during my peak season. It was brutal. I was working more overtime than I think. Once in just a spring season, I worked more than the average person works in a year. So if that tells you how crazy it was, I was just grinding it, and it's not sustainable. Really, it really isn't. And I just kept telling myself, I just got to make it through. And my military mindset didn't allow me to just stop. And I felt like there's a part of me that some of the stuff that Peter talks about with mindset training, you carry a lot of baggage from your childhood and things that you were taught or experiences that shaped how you respond to things and how you view different situations. And I was struggling with all that stuff. And I really wanted my daughter out here, and I wanted to be in a successful and healthy relationship with my fiance, Tanya. And Lifeonaire just really rang that bell of, I need to make some changes and figure out what I'm going to do differently. And I didn't know how to do it. I ran out of options. I tried everything I knew how to do. And then I saw Peter, and I was like, that guy's got all the answers.
In the different
That's
language.
The first time in history anybody's ever said that. Yeah.
So good thing this thing is being recorded then.
Right.
So did you mention what's the business that you do?
I did not. I'm sorry. I skipped right over that. Right. But I own a pretty unique business. We do waterfront services for what I call transient property owners, people that own a vacation property, but they're only there a few weekends a summer. So they need somebody that's kind of a property manager for them. But we handle the waterfront side of it versus the lawn and the plumbing and the heating and maintenance of the house. So we put their boat lifts and docks in the water. We make sure their boats are ready and at the dock and things are covered or uncovered when they need them. Fill them up with fuel, clean and detail the boats, and facilitate if there's ever any problem with the boat getting it to the marina. We don't do the marina work ourselves. We're kind of the middleman. I shouldn't even say the middleman. We're more the quarterback of the deal.
Got it. You get into Lifeonaire coaching. Like, what are some of the things you did in your business to start working on, or did you not even start with the business? Did you start on personal stuff? Like, as you started getting more clarity at that Get a Life and moving forward, like, what are some of the things you addressed and worked on?
Sure. It was probably more personal stuff that I worked on right out of the gate. But there was an element of the business too. I mean, I think we all come with the business mindset when we come to an event, and then we realize how quickly that it's really not the business that's the problem. It's more the personal stuff that's causing the problem in the business. So I cried more in that event than I think I've cried in, I don't know, the last week. The reality was I saw some really hard truths come to light.
Oh, Cale, we lost your audio. Can you hear him, Peter?
No, I can't hear him. Can't hear you.
Here, talk. Cale, can you hear us?
There you go.
Yep, I got you back now.
Okay, so last thing we heard was, so Paula will have some editing here. Last thing we heard is you cried more at that last event than last week.
Yeah, correct. So, and that's kind of a foreshadowing of some of the stuff we're going to talk about here in a minute. But I started first off, I had to make a cut on some customers. So I had to come up with a way that I could creatively eliminate the extra work without offending the people pleaser in me. By telling people I don't want to work for you anymore and I can't do your work. So what we did was we started implementing some price structure changes, started implementing caps on our workload. And that was a work in progress. And I'm still working through that to get to the optimum number. But that was a huge step to free up some of my time. I started blocking certain things off, and I'm still not great at it, but I started blocking off the segments of time to dedicate to family and to Tanya and to, the things that I became aware of that were important to me. They'd always been important, but I always had so many other things that fought for their attention that I just wasn't giving them the priority that I needed to. So it was that started that next step. So I mentioned bringing my daughter out to Wisconsin, and that all worked out. She came out for her freshman year, and then COVID hit, and she spent her that semester of her freshman year doing school in the house. And it was a challenge, but she made a lot of great friends that summer as we worked through COVID and what that whole thing looked like. And those relationships really established the next piece to the puzzle, which was her senior year, when she decided that she wanted, after spending her summer here, that she wanted to spend her senior year here in Wisconsin with me. And none of that would have happened had I not made significant changes in my business and in my personal life as far as my time commitments.
Right. So talk about that, man. Because I can imagine the early version of Cale. I mean, you're working all the time. You probably didn't have time for anything. I'm sure there's issues in relationships that were formed or exacerbated or made worse by you not being present and having so many things in your mind and juggling so many plates. You start making these changes. I mean, your daughter makes the decision. She wants to come out to school. So walk us through what happens from there.
So school started in September of this last year. Things were going great. She was really finding her way in her classes and just having a great time, really making some great friendships here. And homecoming came around. Homecoming was October 2nd. And on October 4th, she was riding home from school. It was a Monday, riding home from school on a motorcycle with one of the guys that actually works with me and that she's a classmate with. And they had a motorcycle accident about 100 yards from the house. He was killed instantly, and she suffered traumatic brain injury and broke C1, C2 in her neck. Best case scenario, the doctors told us at that point, was that if she came through this, that she would be like Christopher Reeve. She'd never be able to walk, talk, feed, anything. We'd have to do everything for her. And I was completely okay with that if that's what God gave us. That time really challenged my faith. And when I say challenge my faith, there was never a moment where I was questioning, why did God do this, or why is this happening to me? I went straight the other direction. I mean, I embraced God to the fullest. I knew that he really had control of the whole situation, and whether this was, I find it hard, and we've had a lot of really interesting discussions about, whether this was in God's plan or whether this is, individual will that caused something to happen. And then God gives you good things that come from this terrible tragedy. I'm not sure. I'm still formulating my opinion on what that actually looks like. And really in my mind, it doesn't really matter. I just know that there's a lot of good that's come from her passing. Not that I would ever wish that, but there's a lot of silver linings in the cloud.
So dude, talk to me about that. I mean, we've talked, this, I know it's not fresh. It didn't just happen, but at the same time, I can't help but imagine this is something that you don't just get over, and you're handling it and you're just talking about it so collectedly. There's got to be something there that you've experienced such loss, and yet you're able to somehow cope with it. How did you do that? How are you able to talk about it? And really it's a big deal, dude. And looking for the good, you've done some amazing things with this as much as someone's able to move forward with it. Talk about some of that.
Yeah. Well, I guess first and foremost, having a solid foundation of my faith was important. I don't know how somebody can go through this without having a solid foundation in faith. And, I've watched other people spin down that really, really dark road of destructive behaviors and just unfortunately just coping in the wrong ways and choosing the wrong path and the wrong mechanisms to handle the grief. A big part as well to that was just having a fantastic community of people. And I'm glad you brought it up, Woj, because at that point I was still relatively new in Lifeonaire, a year and a half in. And, we had COVID, so we didn't get to see each other very much. So these are relationships that I've really just in a couple brief interactions, encounters at retreats, have I gotten to know these people in Lifeonaire. And when I looked around in the hospital parking lot, who was surrounding me, who was there for me, who was able to be there for me. And that's probably one of the pieces that I want to talk about if you bring me back to it. I was surrounded by Lifeonaires. I'm 2 hours away from most of my close friends, and a lot of them actually have moved from my hometown up to this area. So there's probably a dozen of my classmates that I went to school with that are within 20 minutes from us. I didn't see but one or two of them in the parking lot. Everybody else is a Lifeonaire, and Lifeonaires came from all over the country, not just in Wisconsin. And I was just beside myself seeing that all these people came around me to surround me with their prayer and with their help and with their kindness and their grace, to just make sure that if I needed something, they were there for me to lean on. And it was an amazing experience. And the part that I wanted you to bring me back to was, as I looked around, there was a moment or two in time where I was really frustrated. I looked around and I was like, man, this is BS. I can't believe that I'm surrounded by a bunch of people that barely know me, and all these people that I've considered my friends and acquaintances my entire life, they're not here. Where are they? And it was maybe a day or two later as I was processing this and just kind of going through that frustration. And it was probably me kind of going down a dark hole a little bit in this experience. But I got to the point where I was like, I know why. And it was probably just God flicking my ear and saying, hey, dummy, don't go down that path. This is what's going on right now. I surrounded you with people that you need. And I hope you see that the reason why these people are here is because they are Lifeonaires. They're living their vision of being able to take off at a moment's notice and be there to support a friend or somebody in need. Where all the rest of my friends that I grew up with, they're too busy. They're still working that 9 to 5. They don't have vacation time. They can't get off. They can't just jump at a whim. And I started to really soften my position and start to feel like, man, I kind of actually feel bad for these guys, because everybody here was able to just kind of put everything else on hold and come to my aid and comfort. And people that really wanted to be there for my aid and comfort couldn't. They were trapped. And that's, to me, that's a big flashing sign for Lifeonaire right there.
Dude, it just struck me when you said that, like, and I've talked about this before, how, I had a friend die when he was 39, and one of our mutual friends wasn't able to go to the funeral because he had to work, and, my mom has had stage 4 cancer. She's in remission right now, but I was able to get down there and spend time with her when she was getting chemo because other people weren't able to. And it struck me a while ago how, like, people think freedom is for only the great stuff, the vacations, the trips, the fun, the hanging out, but it's also when things don't go so well and stuff like this happens and tragedy strikes. But what really struck me with what you just said is, like, you actually felt bad for those people. Here you are going through it is arguably the most tragic thing that can happen to a person. Like, losing a child is, I don't think there's that. I mean, maybe your spouse is right there too. And yet you found it in your heart to feel bad for other people, dude. That's unbelievable to me. Like, that's incredible. I've never heard someone say that before.
Well, thank you. There's a lot of times where I don't know why I do things or why I feel a certain way. And I get to their side and somebody's like, dude, that was pretty amazing. And it's like, I was just doing what I was raised to do.
Dude, and I appreciate you for sharing that. And so here you are at the hospital. How long was your daughter in the hospital?
She was in the ICU for 7 days. Her official time of death is on the 12th. But that night, the 11th, she passed away with me in there. The doctors couldn't confirm that she had passed, but just because the technician that needed to run the certain machine wasn't there to be able to certify that her brain activity had ceased. But that night, I mean, there's so many little I'll call them God winks. Somebody in our group mentioned that term, and it's really true. I mean, it just those glimpses of God showing you what you need to see, or sending you that message that, if you weren't paying attention, maybe you wouldn't see it, but they're there. There's signs all around you to just let you know that, hey, I got your back. I'm here. And that night, and I might get a little emotional during this piece, but I FaceTimed. I was in the hospital room with my daughter and FaceTimed her best friend in Syracuse, New York, and just wanted to give her that opportunity to say her piece and say goodbye. And the numbers were really going the wrong direction, and was really concerned that this was it. And at the end of the night, it was. But during that conversation where her friend was communicating and telling Peyton all the things that she wanted to say and left nothing on the table, Peyton shed a tear from her left eye. Now, she had trauma on the right side of her head. The right side of her head was kind of swollen. But other than that, looking at this girl, you would never have known laying in this hospital bed that she was in a motorcycle accident and she crashed going 80 miles an hour. Her fingernail polish was still spotless from homecoming. Her toenail polish was spotless from homecoming. And she was wearing sandals on a motorcycle. Physically, her body wasn't broken or scratched up. I mean, you hit the ground at 80 miles an hour, you're going to have road rash and everything else. Nothing. She had a couple little scrapes on her arm, and it was really minimal. So looking at her in this bed and seeing her really not looking like she was literally on her deathbed was just a mental gymnastic that I just really struggled with for a bit. But from the time she was in the hospital until this moment, she had not given us anything. She didn't blink. She didn't swallow. Nothing. Nothing. She was completely incoherent. Some of it was medically induced, and some of it just after they pulled that stuff back, she just didn't come to consciousness at all. So for her to shed this tear as her best friend is giving her, kind of basically getting everything off of her chest, was incredible. And she did that one other time when I was standing by her side and basically gave her the blessing after talking with her mother. Her mom and I came to the conclusion that we just need to let her go. Just tell her that it's okay. She was fighting, and she was fighting hard. And at that moment, she shed another tear down her left eye. I would tear up in both eyes, but from that point forward, it's always been my left eye that tears up and sheds a tear. Yesterday, I was working, and my daughter was kind enough to leave me some breadcrumbs. It was just amazing. It was actually probably the hardest day that I've had since her passing. And we were putting in some equipment on a piece of property, and there's a lot of equipment there. So we had to number and label and so on and so forth. And she did some really awesome stuff just to help us out. That a little of it I taught her, but a lot of it after the basics, she created on her own. And it was something so cool. I don't know if it'll carry over in the podcast or not, but I want to show you the picture of what I found when I was working on this job yesterday. So we used usually just a dot on the dock to line up a boat lift, so we know it goes exactly back in the same spot, so that way the customer's not unhappy with where our placement was and we don't have to guess. And right here, I don't know if you can see it, but there's a little heart that she drew on the side of this dock.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I see it.
And then on the boat lift, on the leg of the boat lift, there's another heart to match up heart to heart. And I lost it yesterday.
Yeah, dude.
It was to see her handwriting and see that little sign that she's there with me and that she's trying to make my life easier, even after the grave.
She's there with you, man. That's what she's trying to tell you.
No.
Yeah. Yep, for sure.
Crazy.
So, yeah. But those signs are all over the place. I mean, you see right here, the left eye is tearing up right now. It's crazy that these are the things that have come about since her passing. And she had a great group of friends here that came around. We had like 200 kids at the house the night she passed away, and it was crazy. The amount of people there. And another, angel numbers were big for her. And I don't know if anybody's familiar with angel numbers, but it's typically repeating numbers. And there's some significance to the actual number itself. 111, like 1111, 222, 444, whatever. Each one of those has some different significance. I'd never known this before, but Peyton was big on it. And when I was going through her phone, I found all these pictures of these screenshots with angel numbers. And just kind of means, you ever notice where you just look at the clock and it just happens to be 11:11. It's like, wow, why did I look at the clock right now? That's weird.
Dude, that one actually does happen to me. 11:11 does happen to me. I didn't know it was an angel thing.
Time too.
Yeah.
Yep. So I encourage you take a look and see what that means. And I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. It's there's some significance to it. And one of the books that somebody purchased for me talked a little bit about these signs, these little indications that our loved ones are still there and they're still around us. And I kind of come to believe that our bodies are made up of energy and matter. And when a person dies, that energy goes somewhere. Energy doesn't disappear. It just, it goes forth in a different matter or different manner. And, I feel like she's around us. And if you've lost somebody, I think that they're around you. The body, the physical is gone, but the energy is still there and still around you.
Man.
So listen, Cale, I got a few questions for you, man, because I'm listening to you, man. There was so much, man. I've known you since that 3-day Gay Life Getaway, and I've seen you grow tremendously and who you are as a person. You're such a strong human being. And a couple of things that you mentioned so far is, one, you talked about the community, Lifeonaire community. And outside of the fact that, they have the time, because I've seen this numerous times now in Lifeonaire, like with Mike Neubauer, when that happened, right? The whole thing with him, with JP, then it happened back in the day. And all those different things that in a time of huge need or whatever it might be, they seem to be showing up, the Lifeonaire, community. So outside of the fact that they can do it because they have the time, why do you think that is the case? Why do you think they are able to do that? Why do they do that?
I think a lot of it has to do with just I think the majority of people in Lifeonaire are spiritually grounded. Whatever their faith is, they're grounded in it, and they believe that there's a piece of serving other people. And it's one of the other, I feel like it's a tenet of Lifeonaire, whether it's spoken or unspoken, but it's there, of taking care of others. And I really look, the people in Lifeonaire that I've been surrounded with are some of the best people I've ever met in my life. I don't know a whole lot about everybody's business and what kind of money they make. And at the end of the day, that's, I guess, a big tenet of understanding what's important is it's really not the money. I came to this as a lot of people do, worried about the money piece, and then realized that it's not about the money. It's about the experiences and about the people you surround yourself with. And these are some of the finest people I've ever met in my entire life. And they just happen to be wildly successful in their businesses in their own right. At the foundation, though, I think, to answer your question, Peter, people just have a sense of giving back and helping others. It's just Lifeonaire has created this community of people that understand it's bigger than them. And that's pretty special. Yeah. I
agree with you on that because of the fact that, think about it, like giving back, being the servant mindset. And in my life, plays a huge role. And when I start looking from the different things that has helped me in my life, being the servant that I put out there for other people, you're over there with the other people, you're helping them, you're serving them, and makes a tremendous difference, not only for you, but not so much for them. I think it's mostly for you. You know what I mean? You want something, you gotta give it away first. I think that is so important, right? So I think you totally touched on it, and then have that faith, have that foundation. It's, I think, like beyond huge, because when the time comes, we all have these times in our lives where it's tough, right? You go into this huge, deep valley. And when you start getting in there, I think that faith aspect is going to be really important. And the community that you're going to surround yourself with people, it's, another thing that's really important. So my second question, I'll follow up to that, because like Vojo mentioned earlier, you're one of the people who have probably gone through one of the toughest things anybody could ever experience in life. So I want to ask you, because you actually walked through it as opposed to somebody just talking about it. Somebody's listening right now and they're going through something really difficult in their life. Maybe there's a huge loss. Maybe they are, crazy depression. Maybe they lost somebody close to them, because especially over the last 2 years with everything that's been happening. What would you say to them? What would you tell them?
I would tell them that every storm comes to an end. There's going to be brighter days, and it's tough, but you need to lean on friends and people around you. You need to create or seek a community where you can get support, and don't give up. It's a hard battle, but other people have walked it before you, and you're just as tough as they are. There's no, I don't know if there's a magic pill.
How do you know that? Because I can see them. They're saying, yeah, it's easy for you to say, because look at you, Cale. You look like you could lift a truck,
Sure.
But
I guess I'll go to my faith. If he brings you to it, he'll bring you through it, and he will not forsake you. And I'm not big on quoting scripture, and that's not me as my person. You could poke a lot of holes in that, because I don't know my scripture like some people do, but those are some of my core tenets that I know that there's always another day. And when we look back on things that were really tough and really challenging for us, more often than not, we block out a lot of the negative feelings, and we usually are left with those positive memories from that experience, number one. But number two, if we truly look back on that one experience, or those multiple experiences that you've been through, you'll see that that's where the most growth comes from in your life.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you've got to burn off the old vegetation to get new growth to come in. You got to tear muscle in the gym to get bigger muscles. You got to destroy it to build it up. When you hit your lowest, when you don't know that you can go on one more step, you really have nowhere to go but up. And that climb out feels so good. And you can look back on it and see how far you've come. And that's rewarding to me, to know that I've been through some really tough stuff in my life. And there's days you got to give yourself grace. You just do. You got to have grace and compassion, understanding for where you're at. Everybody's journey is a little bit different. There's days that are really tough for me. And there's days that I kind of wonder, like, why is this going so well? Or why am I processing and coping with this so well? This just doesn't seem right. I almost feel guilty for feeling good. Especially after losing my daughter. But I also looked at my daughter wouldn't want me unhappy. She wouldn't want me to mope around and kick rocks all day long.
Right.
She'd want me to go out there and like her note said that she left me in a folder. Go out there and be a maverick, Dad.
Right.
Just go do it.
Right on.
So, dude, tell me about, like, dude, I love that, by the way. It's awesome, man. It just means a lot coming from somebody who's gone through it versus somebody who can sit there and say all these things without the experience and having gone through it. And so I don't know, it's been a while now, several months that we've talked about, like, you've reached out to me with passionate about sharing Lifeonaire with younger adults. I want to avoid using the word kids, because I'm just sounding like an old guy when I say that, but like young
old guy.
But and this is something you've been super passionate about. Well, how does that tie into everything that happened with your daughter? Like, what is it that set you on fire for this? So, is it a coping mechanism? Is it like, what is it? Like, how is this playing out for you?
I think in a manner, it is a coping mechanism. It's, they say that you're supposed to find some things that keep your mind engaged and recognize it while not dwelling in it. And for me, my daughter she's my daughter. Everybody's going to say their daughter's the best of this, or they're special and they're the most. I get it. My daughter was pretty unique in the fact that she had foresight and she was business minded. She had an entrepreneurial spirit. She recognized very early on. She didn't know that she wanted to go to college. She kind of felt like college might be just kind of a waste of time at this point in her life, not knowing specifically what she wanted to do. That, you know what, why would you send me to college and I rack up, $200,000 worth of college debt to come out in debt and then trying to pay this stuff off for the next bunch of years when I don't even know if that's what I want to go to school for. And I was like, yeah, good point. Really, really good point to be thinking about that. And I commended her for just the forward thinking, try to set herself up for success and not set herself up for failure, especially in a situation where you don't know what you're going to do. She was coming up with ideas to wash cars, do a mobile car cleaning and detailing business. She was working on a plan to work on my business and cleaning customers' boats for us. So she had all these different ideas that she was coming up with, and she was kind of going against the grain of what a lot of the families and a lot of the teachers and a lot of the guidance counselors were pushing to the kids these days. And I don't want to say that that's a bad thing. I mean, college is good if you're going for the right reasons. But I think you need to know your why. I think you need to know clearly what it is you're trying to accomplish in school. And Peyton just had a different view on things. She was more the non-traditional student, I guess you could say. And I saw that and I said, geez, you know what, there's a lot of Lifeonaire tenets that are not taught in school, but are really valuable. Live within your means, be smart about how you spend your money, be careful with debt. Is debt ever good? Well, maybe certain cases it is, depending on what you're trying to accomplish. But there's a lot of these things that we learn through Lifeonaire that just really set you up for success versus having to dig yourself out of a hole. And we've talked about it many times. How much farther ahead would I be if I had some of these teachings or some of this knowledge as a senior in high school?
Yeah.
Getting into that next phase of my life, where would I be today? How much further ahead would I be? What decisions would I have made differently? How much pain could I have avoided going through if I just was smart about it? And I felt like this is an opportunity with all these kids that came around and that are open door policy at our house. There's still a group of probably 15 or 20 kids that come to our house on a weekly basis, but there's kids here like every day, and I love it. It's just, this is a safe place for them to come and they can talk to us and they can just hang out if they want. No judgments here, and they come here and they hang out and they look at Peyton's pictures and talk about her and rate her refrigerator, and then they move on. Go to the next feeding ground. But yeah, so I try to look for a way that I can. Right, come on over. You're welcome anytime. I was looking for a way to just kind of connect with these kids, and in talking with them and going through this stuff, they kept coming to me and kind of looking to me as a little bit of a leader or just something different than what they were seeing around them in the adult world anyways. And it got me to thinking, like, man, there's an opportunity for me to connect with these kids, give back something or teach them something that maybe they're not hearing. And I talked with Wojo and I talked with Jackie, my coach, and Steve and Brett. And it was like, this is something I really want to pursue. And at the end of the day, what we were in the process of putting together is a young adults Lifeonaire style program that's going to work with the leadership program in the high school here in Kimberly. And I'd like to be able to do the same thing in Syracuse, New York, as kind of the two pilot programs to establish what this thing really looks like. So I'm super excited about it. We've gotten some great movement, and we're coming up on the end of the school year, and we're kind of looking at being able to implement some of this stuff by next fall. So that'd be awesome. It'd be right about the anniversary of her passing. So that's kind of been a big thing that I've been pushing towards.
Yeah, dude, it's awesome, man. Like, it's such a cool blessing for for kids that has come out of a tragedy that, you really have. I mean, I want to acknowledge you for doing this, because I mean, it's so cool. It's almost like, Peytonaire instead of Lifeonaire. And, you're taking this and helping and changing other people's lives as a result of you having gone through something and have experienced something, and you have a chance to make a difference in all these other kids' lives. And you're doing it right now already. Like even just with these kids that are coming by your house, these I don't want to say kids, these young adults that are coming by your house, these students that are coming by your house, and you're getting to pour into them. And now you're kind of putting this into a more structured way, because dude, I totally agree with you. Like I can't even imagine, I got a super late start with all this stuff, and I can't even imagine what it would be like to have people from a young age go through this. And we've had young people go to the Get a Life Getaway. I think Peter, what's our youngest? Like I know we've had definitely teenagers. I think we've had kids, sometimes even kids even younger than teenagers come through. Now, how much do they actually get? Like, I don't know, it's all, we're just planting seeds, but you can't help but think some of those seeds are going to take, and they're going to produce something in those lives. And it's just so awesome to be part of that, man. I love that you're doing that.
Absolutely, man. And the cool thing is that I think it's just, there's a lot of little pieces that have come together with it. There's some really there's a great community here in Kimberly. The families here, they're spiritually grounded. It's a unique area. I mean, it really is. When I'm looking around, I'm talking to these kids. It's like, I don't know that at 17 or 18 years old that I had a whole lot of God in my life. And some of these kids are coming up to me and surprising me with they're involved in a mission, and they lead their Bible study at church. And I'm like, what? Huh? Who are these kids? Because this wasn't me as a kid.
Yeah, me neither, man. Yep.
So there's a lot of really strong faith in this community to start with, and having those seeds, that kind of almost gave me some confidence and some courage that this could really work here. I don't think that I would have a really uphill battle to fight to make this possible. And then, when the guidance counselor at school and the principal at school said, "Hey, if you need anything, let me know." I'm like, that's something. I need something here. Let's see what we can leverage. And I talked with the principal, and I talked to the guidance counselor, and that was the first start. That was just getting the ball rolling, and they liked the idea. And then I showed them some of the Lifeonaire workbook material and said, this is kind of building a vision is really where we're at. This is the foundation, just having clarity what your next step in life is going to look like. And she's like, "Oh, it's like goal setting." I said, "It's like goal setting, but it's not a goal setting. It's way more than a goal setting."
Yeah. That's awesome,
so, dude. Yeah. I love it, man. Dude, I love that you're taking the torch with this. I love that you're running with it. I love everything you're doing, man. I'm so grateful that you took a couple minutes to share with our audience, and just like you're doing now with this program, and whatever it turns out to be, man, whether it turns out to be something that we end up doing nationally, or if it just stays small, you're making a difference, bro. And you're making a difference by being on the show and people hearing your story. I know you're making a difference in people's lives. So I just want to thank you for being on the Lifeonaire show, brother.
Awesome. Thank you for having me. It's been an honor.
Dude, man, Cale's awesome, man. I'm just so blown away with how he's just able to move forward with this incredibly mature perspective, not minimizing the grief that I'm sure he struggles with every day, but like that he's been able to turn this into a positive and like genuinely deal with this in a way that like is just so beyond, I think, what a lot of people would be able to do without like some serious work and a support system. And it's just so impressive to me how he's moved forward with this.
Yeah, you know what? I think one of the reasons for that is, as I'm thinking about this particular episode, is what he mentioned on this episode of having, the business set up so you can do the things that you want to do, the community. He talked about being Lifeonaire, being the servant community, right? And helping others and being there for other people and things like that, and having the faith aspect and the blessings. And I think that one of the reasons why he's able to do what he's doing through his entire process is because that's who he really is. Yeah, think about it. He is a servant. I mean, I just had an experience. He didn't mention on it, and I don't know if I can say it, but one of my students is going through a really tough time right now. And this guy drove, I think, a couple hours to his house, brought him this little piece of equipment and left him for it to share it. And they prayed and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, Cale brought it to him. Yeah.
Cale brought it to him. So talk about a servant being himself. And I think that is the big aspect that's helping him actually get through this.
It's so true, dude. Like because he's that guy. Like he's the guy that I know if I had a hard time, I could reach out to him and he'd be there in a second. Like, and that's the kind of guy he is. And I think what he said is so true. Like somehow, man, Lifeonaire has managed to attract people with that similar heart, like the similar mindset, the similar servant mentality, the similar, like, how can I help kind of attitude. And, you know, and it's just, you just see it in these instances. Like, yeah, it's awesome. Like, you know, we went snowmobiling with a bunch of Lifeonaires in Colorado, like a little while ago, but it's so much more powerful when you see people circle around you to help you when things don't go so well. And when you're struggling and when you're down and when you need help and to be picked up, like that's the part that really matters, really, you know? And I thought it was revealing how we said, like, a lot of these people, you know, traveled across the country that necessarily they're not like childhood friends. They've known him for like a year or a year and a half, and they're picking up and able to help him, not just because they have the freedom to do it. Yeah, that's part of it, but also the heart to do it too. And you had mentioned that in the podcast during the episode. And so I think it's super important.
Yeah. And a lot of it I've noticed, I mean, because I'm known for a couple of years now, his mindset has shifted tremendously as far as how he looks at life, how he looks at business, how he looks at different aspects. And one of the coolest things that I got out of this episode when he shared is towards the end, he used this phrase and it jumped out at me. And he said, when he brings you to it, he brings you through it. Yeah. And I know with my accent now, if you want to put subtitles on that one, but if
people didn't get it.
Here's the thing, dude. If you think about it that way, there's a lot that comes with that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There is some peace that you can get out of this. There's some hope that comes out of this to be able to get through it. So if I think about it, that, you know, let's say from my perspective, God brings me to it. He's going to bring me through it. Then let's do it.
Dude, you know what?
Well, let's do it, because we were like, hey, excited to do it.
Yeah, let's have. No, but you know, one other thing that struck me like early on in the interview, and he's talked with me about this prior to this as well, is that he made these changes in his life and in his business that prompted his daughter to want to finish school there. Like, think about that for a second. So like, and now someone might be like, well, you know, he made these changes and then something tragedy happens. And I remember bringing that up to him, like, man, like, how does that feel? Like you made all these changes and she wanted to stay with you. Then this happens. And he's like, dude, no, that was my affirmation that I did something correctly and that I got to spend that time with her. You know what I mean? And I got to have that experience. And like, so he's not looking at it like, you know, this happened and it was fruitless. I made these changes for nothing. He looked at it like, no, man, like it was these changes that I made that made her want to come spend more time with me. And it made me able to enjoy that and have that and that experience. And so it's just like, you know, but had he not created those changes in his life and in his business prior to that, you know, that may not be the case. Right. And so this is where you got to like, just look at like what you're doing and, you know, what's your why? We talk about why all the time here. Right. And like, so I love now that his why, you know, he's had this, he has a choice. Like he can either go through this and let it destroy him and his family and his life and just, you know, and some people go through this and and listen, I'm not one to throw stones because I can't even imagine what it's like. Like I can't even imagine. But some people turn to alcohol and drugs and all these other negative things. And he's like, you know what? And he suffered and and I'm sure this is never going to leave him ever. But he also chose to turn that page and say like, hey, Peyton had all these amazing things about her. How can I take those lessons and help other kids now and take what happened to me and her sacrifice to now go and make a difference for other young adults in their lives and turn it around. And this Lifeonaire thing with young adults thing is that he's so passionate about now. It's just amazing to see how he's taken that and done something with it. Like it's so inspiring.
Yeah, there's a huge blessing that's coming out of this. I think that's going to bless a lot of people in this world, and it's already done. I mean, I'm looking at this journey as he's been going through all this, and I see the community and being like, you know, in the Lifeonaire app, we used to have it on there. People were posting in there and gathering around there and showing up at this house.
Yeah.
And it has a ripple effect. It has a ripple effect across so many different people that we don't even know. And hopefully maybe someone who's listening on this particular episode here that has an impact on them, or they know somewhere in their life that they can go and pass this on. Yeah. And I would encourage you listening. If you know somebody in your life, pass on this episode for them. Maybe they'll get something out of this for themselves that's going to move them in the right way to go and look at life differently, so they're not going down this rabbit hole.
Well, dude, and one other thing that really struck me about this is he said, you know, he said it kind of in passing at the end. He's like, yeah, man. He's like, I actually have days that I'm happy. And he kind of catches himself a little bit because he's like, and I think some people struggle with that because like they feel like they're somehow doing their loved one a disservice by like, dishonoring them somehow.
Feel guilty.
Yeah. You feel guilty about it. And like, that's so true. Like cause you know, I could see how someone might feel like that. Like I don't deserve to be happy and I'm somehow minimizing or making them less important or, you know, downplaying this, what happened. And I don't think that's true. I think, and he said it, you know, she wouldn't want me unhappy. She wouldn't want me miserable and curled up and you know what I mean? Like, and so that really struck me as well. Like to give yourself permission to move on, like that's gotta be a challenge. And if you think about it from the perspective of what this person would want from me though, like you gotta get out of your own way a little bit and like, and let that healing occur.
All right. Give yourself permission. And if that's too difficult, ask someone to give you that permission, because I think people would be more than willing to do that.
Yeah, man. You. Yeah. You're not doing them a disservice at all. I think you're doing them more disservice by continuing to struggle with it over a period of time where they wouldn't want that for you. Dude, what a heavy topic, man. Super heavy.
I think it's a great episode.
Yeah. Fantastic. Cale's awesome. I love that dude, man. And so we hope you guys enjoyed this episode as much as we did. We know it was some really, this is life. This is the real stuff, right, guys? This isn't some fluff.
It's not just about money.
No, like the money. Yeah. Like that's whatever. Like, yeah, we'll help you with your business. No big deal. Whatever. That's not a big deal. Like this is the stuff that's a big deal. We hope that you got something out of this, you know, and that it makes it different for you. And you see somewhere, maybe for yourself, that you've struggled with something for a while, or you've gone through tragedy. Gosh knows there's plenty of it around us, right? But you've learned something here that maybe you can turn it around. And by the way, if you have, we'd love to hear that story. Come on over to our private Facebook group and share that. We'd love to hear it. Or maybe, you know what, maybe somewhere else in your life, you know, somebody else that's gone through something significant and you can share this episode with them, or you can be that support structure for them. You can be that support system for them. And this maybe helps you understand a little bit about maybe what they're going through, so that you can be better friend for them as well. As always, you know, we appreciate you listening. We are and being part of this journey together. And we'll see you guys next week. And if, again, I'd love to see you in the Facebook group. And, you know, leave us some comments and let us know how we can help you. We'll see you next time, everybody. Take care.